Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take a deep dive, into a new topic each week. And today,
Love it.
we are tackling something that has been causing quite a stir lately.
Yeah.
New guidelines for federal architecture
Federal architecture.
in the U.S.
In the U.S.
And, some people, when they hear this, they think
Right.
architecture.
Boring.
Yeah.
Right.
A little dry,
Mm-hmm.
but trust me,
It's not.
it gets really interesting.
What's interesting is this goes way beyond just aesthetics.
Right.
We're talking about a memo issued on January 20th, 2025,
Okay.
that directs the General Services Administration,
The GSA.
or GSA, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
to prioritize beauty
Okay.
in new federal buildings.
Interesting.
Specifically highlighting regional, traditional, and classical architectural heritage.
So before we dive into, the pros, the cons and all that,
Yeah,
I think it's important to get on the same page here.
sure.
When we say
Yeah.
classical or traditional architecture, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
What pops into your mind?
What pops into your mind? I mean,
Yeah.
what are we?
Well, think about
At least if
the
regionality.
building, the
Yeah.
Lincoln Memorial,
Yeah.
these really iconic structures with columns, the symmetry,
Yeah.
the sense of grandeur.
Okay.
Those are prime examples of what this memo seems to be advocating for.
So very specific aesthetic that we're
Mhm.
kind of
Mhm.
talking about here.
Yeah.
Now, the memo doesn't explicitly ban modern architecture.
It doesn't say no
Right.
to modern architecture.
It definitely seems to favor these older styles.
Right.
Now,
It's interesting.
I know there's been a lot of buzz about this,
Yeah.
both positive and negative.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the benefits
Okay,
that people are talking about?
Proponents of this shift are emphasizing a few key points.
Okay.
One is fostering community identity and heritage
Okay.
through architecture. These traditional designs often incorporate regional elements, tying buildings to their specific locations and histories.
So, instead of it just being like a federal building that could be anywhere,
Yeah.
it's more tied to place.
Yeah, think about how Spanish colonial architecture defines parts of California,
Right.
or how Art Deco gives Miami its unique vibe.
Yeah.
It's about creating a sense of place,
Uh-huh.
a visual connection to the community's past.
Okay. So it's all about
Yeah.
creating a sense of place.
Mhm.
What else are people saying?
Another argument is the timeless appeal
Okay.
of classical architecture.
Timeless appeal.
Yeah, it's endured for centuries.
Right.
While architectural trends, they come and go.
Right. Like brutalism.
Brutalism, exactly.
Like who?
That was a trend,
Yeah.
and now it's
Not so much.
yeah, not so much.
Yeah.
Some argue that investing in these enduring designs ensures that buildings won't look dated in a few decades.
That's interesting because I'm sure some people would say that they look dated now,
Right.
but I can
It's all subjective.
see how they're thinking long term.
Yeah.
Longevity.
Longevity, exactly.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
What else are they saying?
There's also the argument about enhancing public spaces.
Okay.
These classical designs, with their emphasis on elegance and grandeur, can create a sense of dignity and inspiration,
Mm-hmm.
elevating the experience of those spaces.
Okay, so we've got a sense of place.
Yeah.
We've got timeless appeal
Mm-hmm.
and this idea of
Yeah.
enhanced public spaces.
Yes,
But of course,
of course.
every decision has its potential downsides.
Right.
So what are some of the criticisms
Yeah, what are some of the key criticisms?
that you've come across?
Well, one of the biggest concerns is cost.
Okay.
Constructing and maintaining buildings in these traditional styles
Uh-huh.
can be significantly more expensive
Right.
than more modern minimalist approaches.
And that's a valid concern, especially when we're talking about federal buildings, which are ultimately
Right.
funded by taxpayers.
By taxpayer,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
We have to consider that.
got to think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other concerns that stand out to you?
Absolutely. There's also the concern that this push for traditional styles could stifle architectural innovation and creativity, could a focus on the old,
Right.
limit the exploration of new materials, technologies, and designs that might be more functional or even environmentally sustainable.
Right. Could we miss out on
Yeah,
the future by looking to the past?
exactly. It's a question worth considering.
Yeah. What other criticisms have you come across?
Another concern is about the subjectivity of aesthetics.
Ooh, yeah.
What one person finds beautiful,
Right.
another might find outdated
Totally.
or even offensive.
Yeah, how do you create a
Right.
standard for beauty
Right.
that will work for everyone?
Yeah, and this also raises a concern.
That this emphasis on classical and traditional styles could marginalize modern architecture
Okay.
and its contributions.
Interesting.
Would this create an architectural hierarchy
Yeah.
where certain styles are deemed more worthy than others?
Right. And it's important to
Yeah.
acknowledge and appreciate all those
Absolutely.
different styles and their merits.
Yeah,
Okay, now beyond the aesthetics and the finances,
right.
this memo has also sparked a debate about the role of personal preference
Yes,
in shaping our public spaces.
absolutely.
The memo requires the GSA to notify the president directly
Interesting.
before approving any designs that don't fit this classical traditional mold.
Okay.
That seems like a pretty significant step.
It does. It raises questions about the balance of power
Right.
and the potential for delays in the approval process.
Okay.
Critics worry this gives one person's taste
Right.
undue influence over something as significant as the design of federal buildings.
Yeah, and it also begs the question, why is the style of our building so important in the first place?
Why should we care?
Yeah, I mean, beyond just the way it looks,
Right.
why should we care?
Well, think about it this way.
Right.
Buildings are more than just physical structures. They
Yeah.
shape our experiences, influence our emotions,
Yeah.
convey messages about the values and priorities of a society.
Okay.
Think about how you feel walking into a grand classical building
Uh-huh.
versus a sleek modern one.
Totally different.
The experience is totally different.
Like a soaring cathedral makes you feel one way,
Right.
and like a minimalist art museum makes you feel another way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when it comes to federal buildings, the stakes are even higher.
Oh, yeah.
These structures represent the government,
Uh-huh.
the institutions that shape our lives.
Right.
They're symbols of power, authority, and the ideals upon which our nation was founded.
So it's really about
Or the style of these buildings.
way more than just aesthetics.
Sends a message about who we are as a people.
Yeah, and how we perceive our government and our history.
Absolutely.
It's really fascinating.
And our national identity.
Yeah, it's really
It
fascinating.
raises questions about what values we want to project through our public architecture.
Mm.
Do we want to emphasize tradition and continuity?
Okay.
Or embrace innovation and progress?
Or both.
Or strive for some kind of balance?
Yeah, how do we reconcile
Exactly.
all these things?
How do we?
Beauty, functionality, cost, and accessibility.
Yeah, this is
This is complex.
It's a complex, multi-layered conversation.
It really is.
It is to understand the weight of this decision.
Yeah.
It helps to look at historical examples of how architecture has reflected changing societal values.
Oh, interesting.
Take, for instance, the City Beautiful movement in the early 20th century.
Okay.
It aimed to use grand classical architecture
Mm-hmm.
to inspire civic pride and promote moral and social order.
So that was like a very specific goal that they had in mind.
Very specific. Okay. Or consider the rise of modernism in the mid-20th century,
Okay.
which often rejected ornamentation and embraced new materials and technologies,
Mm-hmm.
reflecting a belief in progress and a break from the past.
Wow. So we really see how
Yeah, you can see
different styles were tied
Yeah.
to these larger
to broader social and political movements.
movements. Exactly.
That's so interesting.
And these movements often sparked debate and controversy,
As they do.
just like we're seeing with this new memo.
Right. So what's old is new again.
Right, exactly.
All cyclical.
Thinking about these historical parallels
Yeah.
can help us understand the potential impact of the choices we make today.
It's a good reminder that these decisions aren't just about bricks and mortar.
They're not.
They're about, shaping the world we want to live in
Yeah.
and the message we send to future generations.
Absolutely.
Speaking of different perspectives, another case study that comes to mind is the Vietnam Veterans Memorial
Oh, yeah.
in Washington, D.C.
That stark minimalist design was initially met with fierce criticism.
Right. People felt it was too abstract, too somber.
Didn't adequately honor the sacrifices made.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a powerful example of how public perception of architecture can evolve over time.
Right.
What might seem unconventional or even jarring at first
Mm.
can eventually become iconic and deeply meaningful.
Yeah.
The Vietnam Veterans Memorial is now one of the most visited
Wow.
and emotionally resonant sites in the country.
That's amazing.
It is.
It really shows that,
Yeah.
we need to be open to different approaches and consider the long-term impact
Long-term,
of
right?
our choices.
For sure.
So how do we navigate
Right.
this complex terrain of aesthetics and symbolism and public opinion
Yeah.
when it comes to designing federal buildings?
There's no easy answer.
It seems like there's no easy answer.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah.
But I think the key lies in thoughtful and nuanced dialogue. We need to engage in open and honest conversations, considering diverse perspectives and weighing the potential benefits and drawbacks of different architectural styles.
I completely agree. We can't just dismiss one style over another without really understanding
Right.
the arguments on both sides.
Exactly.
It's about finding a balance that respects our history, reflects our values, and embraces innovation.
And it's also about recognizing that beauty is subjective.
Right.
What resonates with one person
Yeah.
may not resonate with another.
Totally.
There's no single definition of beauty that will satisfy everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
we want to turn the conversation over to you, our listeners.
Right?
What are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah. What stands out to you in this debate?
What aspects resonate most strongly with you?
Maybe you're a staunch traditionalist, believing that classical architecture embodies timeless beauty and civic virtue. Or perhaps you're a modernist at heart, embracing innovation and pushing the boundaries of design.
Okay.
Or maybe you fall somewhere in between, appreciating elements of both while advocating for a more nuanced approach.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your perspectives.
But before we go,
Mm-hmm.
we want to leave you with one final thought to ponder.
Okay.
If you were designing a federal building today, what would it look like?
What message would you want to convey?
How would you balance beauty, functionality, costs,
Right.
and the needs of the community?
Think about the materials you'd use, the spaces you'd create,
Mm-hmm.
and the overall feeling you'd want to evoke.
Architecture is a powerful tool.
It is.
It can inspire, uplift, and even challenge us.
Absolutely.
So let your imagination soar
Mm-hmm.
and envision the federal buildings of the future.
That's it for our deep dive into this fascinating topic.
Yeah.
We hope you've enjoyed exploring the complexities of federal architecture and the broader implications of design choices.
Until next time, keep those neurons firing and keep questioning the world around you.